Jake Paul's California mansion has been raided by the FBI, multiple news organizations report. You can see in this aerial footage agents in uniform outside his home in Calabasas.
You know what's funny about your brother? Your brother talks more shit than anybody else on the planet. They're trying to sue people when people talk shit. There's people out there saying they're fake fights, they're fixed.
You know, for me, in my opinion, I think it's scripted a little bit because, you know, of the weight difference, and, you know, Joshua's a former, you know, champion. And also, you know, he's current, he's active.
That was not a boxing match. Jake Paul had a very healthy fear for his life while he was in there. He was running away. He was trying to get distance. Then he was trying to step in to win this.
Jake Paul's boxing career just exploded into 1,000 pieces. Fresh allegations are claiming his biggest fights, including that massive Netflix bout, were completely scripted. And here's the kicker, some corners of social media are even saying he and Logan faced arrest over these alleged schemes. This isn't just another internet rumor anymore. This is a full-blown scandal that could destroy everything he's built in the boxing world.
FBI agents have raided the Southern California home of YouTube star Jake Paul. Federal officials say the search was part of an investigation. Wendy Birch is in Calabasas with what we're learning tonight.
Sky 5 was overhead this morning as federal agents entered Jake Paul's Calabasas home located in this gated community off of Mulholland Highway. We counted close to 24 federal agents, some of them in tactical gear, entering the residence. Why they were here and what they were looking for, that remains unclear. The federal search warrant has been sealed and no...
Look, let me break down what's really happening here because the media is dancing around the brutal truth. Multiple boxing analysts, former fighters and promoters have been questioning Jake Paul's legitimacy for years. They're pointing to carefully selected opponents who are way past their prime, suspicious fight pacing, and those late knockdowns that seem almost too convenient. Critics are saying his entire rise feels manufactured, like we're watching WWE instead of real boxing. And you know what's wild? These aren't random haters on Twitter. These are veteran voices in the sport who have seen everything. They're saying that while Paul brings massive attention and money to boxing, his matchups consistently avoid real competitive danger. It's like watching someone play a video game on easy mode while claiming to be a champion.
Than earned.
Because I've always been curious about this, because, like, you know, you saw the Askren fight, we saw these fights that he went into. The Fury one obviously didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go, just because I was so convinced that, like, Jake had these fights fixed, and there's a lot of people who talk about the fights being fixed because it's just the way it is.
Yeah, they tell me that too. They're like, tell me you're not going to take a fall against Paul.
But here's where it gets absolutely insane. The Mike Tyson fight has become the smoking gun in this entire controversy. Rumors of a leaked script suggesting the whole thing was pre-planned caused a complete frenzy online. We're talking alleged audio recordings that supposedly back up claims that every dramatic moment was choreographed. Tyson's fatigue, the pacing, even Paul's knockout win, critics are saying it was all mapped out beforehand. And get this part, after the fight, Jake Paul casually mentioned that he didn't get hurt much or punched hard. That statement right there sent shockwaves through the boxing community. Fans celebrated it as proof of his dominance, but critics immediately jumped on it as evidence that Tyson wasn't even trying to win.
To me, is what was going to happen to him had he dropped those hands. If I say, Rampage, I'm going to pay you $2 million, right? Let this dude beat you, what you going to do? You're going to feel disrespected, number one. Right? That ain't enough money. For me to do that, I got to be willing to walk away for good. Something like 20-something million where I can't.
Now listen to this part because it gets even more suspicious. Observers reported seeing peculiar exchanges during Paul's matches that made zero sense in a real fight. We're talking about Tyson allegedly whispering instructions to Paul mid-fight, and referees appearing to signal Paul to avoid certain moves. Think about that for a second. In what world does your opponent give you advice during a professional boxing match? These moments are fueling massive suspicions of scripting and staged choreography. It's like watching actors perform rather than fighters competing, and the boxing community is absolutely losing their minds over it.
Staged.
A high school graduate in the United States is $1.3 million. Again, that's over the course of the person's entire life. Jake Paul earned 30 times that in one night. People talk about winners and losers.
Hold up, because the Anthony Joshua situation makes everything even more ridiculous. Many commentators are calling this pairing completely absurd, and honestly, they're not wrong. You've got a YouTuber with a 12-1 record stepping into the ring with a former 2-time world heavyweight champion who's fought elite competition his entire career. The size difference, the experience gap, the pedigree, it's not even close. Critics are labeling Joshua as nothing more than a cash grab opponent rather than a legitimate challenge. They're saying this event is pure spectacle, designed to generate headlines and pay-per-view buys rather than determine who's the better fighter.
Go viral with his cheeks out?
I don't know. It made my stomach hurt.
I was seeing it. Why did he have underwear on?
He had a G-string on, is what he had.
Almost.
I thought he was completely butt naked.
Nah, he looked like a stripper.
But yeah, biggest live gate, 18.1 millions in U.S. boxing history outside of Las Vegas. A phenomenal night. I'm sorry I didn't knock him out, though, guys.
Shut the fuck up. It was crazy when we talked about this. I told.
And get this, Jake Paul is entering this fight with a level of confidence that's shocking even seasoned observers. He's not just confident, he's acting like he's already won. Analysts are noting his intense focus and determination, but here's what they're really thinking. How can someone be this confident against a fighter of Joshua's caliber unless they know something we don't? Critics are already speculating about Paul's physique and performance, suggesting he might be relying on substances or other advantages that aren't being discussed publicly. The whole thing feels orchestrated from top to bottom.
Punch, I think he's mentally fragile at world level if he goes against the big guns because of the knockout, especially the bar knockout when he got fucking splattered. You know what I mean? In round 5, and he got hurt early on, and then he got done. And he's not been in the ring for 13 months.
Yeah.
But can you see a world in which Jake Paul is competitive in this fight?
No.
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 How do you see the fight going if AJ takes it serious?
But wait, it gets worse. Despite all these controversies, people are putting serious money on this fight, and that's become part of the problem. The betting action itself is adding fuel to the debate about whether this is legitimate sport or pure entertainment. Fans, casual bettors, and celebrities are actively wagering on outcomes. But how do you bet on something that might already have a predetermined result? It's like betting on a movie while the director is still deciding how it ends. The entire gambling aspect is raising questions about the integrity of not just Paul's fights, but professional boxing as a whole.
He's very big. I'm here to shock the world, inspire the next generation. We're in the Heat arena. I'm a big Heat fan. Miami's on fire. This is my first pro fight, was in Miami against Gibb. I'm bringing that.
Here's the kicker, though. The promoters are scrambling to do damage control. Matchroom Boxing CEO Eddie Hearn has publicly denied that the Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight is scripted or fixed. He's stressing that if the bout happens, it would be a real professional fight under Queensberry rules, not an exhibition or pre-written show. But here's the thing. The fact that he even has to make these statements shows how much the scripting rumors have taken hold. When promoters are spending more time denying allegations than promoting the actual fight, you know there's a serious problem.
Jake Paul natural? No. I can say that with pretty certain confidence in that statement, mainly because, as you heard me mention, I know a lot of the people he trains with and I have heard things. Now let's give Jake the benefit of the doubt, right? He's able to restrain from the peer pressure that everyone's putting on him to hop on these certain compounds. Then that would be cool to train natural, do what he needs to do. But the thing is, his body composition has changed so much, his explosiveness, his power, and yes, that comes with training and time. But I find it very, very suspicious that for some reason, whenever a drug test gets brought up, for instance, when Fury wanted that in the contract, Jake Paul turns them down. So you should think to yourself, it's probably because he's not natural. Now I want to make it clear, I don't care whether Jake Paul is natural or not. There's so many people that aren't natural that are in combat sports. In fact, Tyron Woodley probably is also not natural. Everyone wants that little edge over their competition, and that's where drugs and anabolics come into play. There's certain compounds that are out there that just increase your explosiveness immensely, your recovery, so that you can stay in the same weight class, which is very important for combat sports, whether that's boxing, UFC, whatever type of combat sport you're doing. So that is why you guys have seen so much improvement from Jake Paul. Of course, he has a great circle around him, great trainers, great coaches, a great regimen, but definitely anabolics play a very fundamental role in that. They allow him to train as hard as he does. They allow him to increase his power and speed. And of course, when you think of those concepts, that's essentially the rest.
Meanwhile, Frank Smith has sparked fresh controversy by warning that this event is less about sport and more about showmanship. He's arguing that what fans are getting is designed to sell and shock rather than uphold boxing's competitive integrity. Smith is basically saying this is serious entertainment, not serious competition. And honestly, that might be the most honest assessment we've heard from anyone involved. He's also mentioned hoping for a real Fury versus Joshua fight by 2026, which tells you everything about what he thinks of this Paul matchup. It's a sideshow, not the main event.
Do you think that Jake Paul...
You couldn't fake it. You really think Anthony Joshua's going to put his whole livelihood on the line for Jake Paul?
No, I don't think he would.
So there you go. It's over when he wants it to be over.
There could be some kind of tacit agreement in the background.
How?
Where they have a handshake.
Then that's illegal. You're going to jail.
Exactly, it's illegal. That's what I was going to say.
So you can't.
Because it's not an exhibition.
No, it's a fight.
So we're
and people are betting on it. Big amounts of money.
So we're watching this. I'm flying out there next week to Miami to watch it. So I'm going out there. He's laughing. I'm getting some old. So it's all good. But it's like Jake Paul against Anthony Joshua, 6 foot. What's he? 6'6".
About that.
Fucking. What's he? 16. What's 245 pounds?
He can't be a pound over 245.
What's
so
that in stone?
The best part, just on 17 stone or just under.
So Jake lost to Tommy Fury, and that's the one everyone keeps on. Do you think he's improved much since Tommy Fury?
Yeah, but do I think he's improved enough to be competitive? Unless I close my eyes and Josh is completely shot to bits, no.
Yeah, and so is the potential that Jake Paul, like, I know you keep saying no, I know.
Even Eddie Hearn's responses have been controversial. He joked that the only script is Joshua's plan to knock Paul out as quickly as possible, then had to clarify he was being serious about the bout's legitimacy. But think about this, when promoters are making jokes about scripting allegations, it shows how much this narrative has infected the entire sport. The very need to publicly ridicule these claims proves that the boxing world is taking this threat to their credibility seriously.
Versus Paul script was fully leaked all the way down to the bow Jake did in round 8. This profile on X posted it anonymously one day before the fight, explaining everything before deleting it today. A fake script has been going around that said Mike Tyson will get KO'd in round 5, but that one was clearly not real or an older script. This will give you goosebumps. I'm just going to read you parts, but if you want to see the full script, I'll show you it at the end. Round 1, opening bell rings and Tyson is showing flashes of his old form, but slower than his prime. Round 2, Tyson comes alive, but his breathing grows heavier. Round 3, Paul gains confidence and lands a sharp right that stuns Tyson. That's exactly what happened. Then round 4 and 5, the fatigue sets in strong for Tyson and Jake is landing a bunch of hits. Round 6, Jake showboats, which is the tongue thing he did here. Then on round 7, Jake plays it safe to not KO Mike. And round 8 wins by decision and bows at the end. This is crazy. Subscribe if you want.
So here you have it. Jake Paul's boxing career is facing the biggest crisis it's ever encountered. The scripting allegations, the suspicious fight moments, the carefully selected opponents, and the promoter's desperate damage control, it's all pointing to a sport that's lost its way. This isn't just about one YouTuber anymore. This is about the integrity of professional boxing and whether fans can trust what they're watching. The question isn't whether Jake Paul will survive this scandal, it's whether boxing's reputation can recover from the damage he's already done. So drop it in the comments. Do you think these fights are legitimate, or is Jake Paul turning boxing into professional wrestling? If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening, smash that like button, subscribe for more boxing truth bombs, and hit that notification bell because this story is far from over. I'll see you in the next one.
Versus Mike Tyson was 100% scripted. Mike Tyson repeatedly bit his boxing glove throughout the fight. When fights are scripted, fighters do weird gestures to signal that they're hurt. It's very possible Mike Tyson was biting on his glove to tell Jake Paul to calm down. Now, if that's not enough proof that this fight was scripted, in the middle of the fight, Mike Tyson is literally talking to Jake Paul while they are clinching. And in the middle of the fight, the referee told Jake Paul to stop measuring. For those of you who don't know, in boxing terms, measuring means that you're setting up for a knockout by seeing how far your opponent is with jab. The referee literally told Jake Paul to stop measuring, and before the fight, we see Mike Tyson and Jake Paul whispering stuff to each other. Mike Tyson biting on his gloves, whispering secrets to Jake Paul in the middle of the fight, and the referee literally telling Jake Paul to stop measuring during the fight.
But here's what nobody's talking about yet. And this is where things get absolutely terrifying for Jake Paul's empire. The financial implications of these scripting allegations are starting to ripple through every aspect of his business. We're not just talking about his boxing career anymore, We're talking about his entire brand, his sponsorship deals, his merchandise empire, and his media company. Major corporations are quietly distancing themselves from Paul as these allegations gain momentum. Sources close to several major brands are reporting that they're reviewing their contracts and considering whether association with potentially fraudulent boxing matches violates their partnership agreements.
People who say Anthony is ruining his legacy just by taking this fight. Fans don't respect what he's done in the sport already. He's an Olympic gold medalist, two-time unified heavyweight champion of the world. I sort of sympathize with him because I feel like if he doesn't beat him quicker than he beat Francis, people are just going to write it off. I'll ask you bluntly, have there been any discussions about there's an agreement, there's a secret contract? Have any of those discussions happened regarding this fight? It's an 8-round professional fight. AJ wouldn't have taken it if that was the stance it had to be, if it was an exhibition, if it was you've got to hold him up for 8 rounds. It wouldn't suit Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is going in there to knock out Jake Paul.
Sorry, just to silence all the doubters here. You know, a lot of people saying this can't be real. You know, Anthony Joshua going in there, it must be an exhibition, or Anthony Joshua's going to it's going to be choreographed and Anthony's going to carry him through a couple of rounds. I know Anthony Joshua. Just to silence all those doubters, he's going to go in there to do a job, right?
It's 100% real. It's 100% real. People asking why is it 8 rounds, not 10? Because I don't think it goes past the first round. So it's, you know, regardless, it's quite irrelevant. I think he steps across the ring and knocks him out, you know, but we're in for a bit of fun and everyone's going to be tuning in.
It might not be fun for Jake Paul. I mean, it's serious entertainment, is it?
Yeah, 100%. You know, look, I agree with you. I accept Jake Paul is absolutely mental for doing this. And I don't think he quite realizes. I think he's got people around him who actually are saying, you know, Anthony Joshua's chinny. He said it in interviews. It's quite wild, but, you know, if that's the world he wants to live in, he'll find out on December 19th.
And Frank, to finish with, the plan is still sometime in 2026, AJ against Tyson Fury. And Turki Al-Sheikh's working on that, is he?
That's the fight we want to make. That's the fight we want to see. Look, we're all guilty of doing a lot of talking over the years and that not happening. So I don't want to talk too much, but that is definitely what we want to see in 2026. It's one of the biggest fights in the sport. And I'm very...
Think about it from a business perspective. If you're Nike, if you're a major energy drink company, if you're any brand that's invested millions in Jake Paul's image, these scripting allegations aren't just bad publicity. They're potentially catastrophic for your own reputation. Corporate lawyers are scrambling to understand the legal implications of sponsoring what might be revealed as predetermined entertainment marketed as legitimate sport. The domino effect here could be absolutely devastating, and Paul's team knows it. That's why they're not just fighting these allegations in the media. They're fighting for the survival of a multi-million-dollar business empire.
So many people can't speak. Yeah, but it's obviously scripted, isn't it? I'm like, no. 1, that's illegal. I mean, this is a professional contest. 2, we would never sign up to anything that's going to make AJ look bad or devalue him, lose rounds, go loads of rounds.
Do you think there's any world in which AJ pulls back, though?
No, absolutely. He couldn't do that as a fighter. He would be incapable of going in there and holding back. I mean, I think the only thing that's a bit harsh is if Anthony Joshua doesn't knock him out in the first round, he should be ashamed of himself. Like, Brian, give us 2, like, or 3. Because if Jake does move, he can look after himself. It's not like he's just going to get 1 shot.
And here's something that'll blow your mind. Industry insiders are revealing that the scripting allegations have created a split in the Paul brothers' relationship that nobody saw coming. While Jake is doubling down on his boxing legitimacy, Logan has been notably quiet about defending his brother's fights. Some observers are suggesting that Logan, who's been building credibility through his podcast and WWE appearances, doesn't want to get dragged down by Jake's boxing controversies. The silence from Logan's camp is deafening, and it's raising questions about whether even his own family believes these fights are legitimate. But wait, because this gets even more insane when you look at the betting patterns. Professional gamblers and oddsmakers are reporting some of the most unusual betting activity they've ever seen on Jake Paul fights. We're talking about massive last-minute bets placed by anonymous accounts that seem to have inside knowledge of how fights will unfold. The timing of these bets, the specific nature of the wagers, and the accuracy of the predictions are raising red flags throughout the gambling industry. Some sportsbooks are actually considering whether to continue offering odds on Jake Paul fights at all. Nevada's Athletic Commission is reportedly taking these concerns seriously enough to launch a preliminary investigation into betting irregularities surrounding Paul's recent fights. While they haven't made any official statements, sources within the commission are saying they're reviewing footage, examining betting patterns, and interviewing key figures involved in Paul's fights. This isn't just about public perception anymore. This could become a legitimate legal investigation with real consequences. If athletic commissions start finding evidence of predetermined outcomes, we're looking at potential criminal charges, not just bad publicity. Here's where it gets absolutely wild, though. Former opponents of Jake Paul are starting to break their silence in ways that are completely explosive. Multiple sources are reporting that several fighters who have faced Paul in the ring are considering speaking out about their experiences. The non-disclosure agreements that typically keep fighters quiet after controversial bouts are being challenged by lawyers who believe they might not hold up if fraud is involved. We could be looking at a situation where former opponents start revealing exactly what happened behind the scenes. And get this, the timing couldn't be worse for Jake Paul's political ambitions. Yeah, you heard that right. Paul has been quietly building political connections and even hinting at potential runs for office in the future. But politicians who were previously willing to associate with him are now running for the hills. The last thing any serious political figure wants is to be connected to someone facing allegations of sports fraud. This scandal isn't just destroying his boxing career. It's potentially killing any dreams he had of transitioning into politics or serious business ventures. The international implications are getting crazy too. Jake Paul's fights have been broadcast globally, with international betting markets taking massive action on his bouts. If these scripting allegations prove true, we're looking at potential international fraud investigations. Countries where significant betting took place on Paul's fights could launch their own investigations, especially if their citizens lost money betting against predetermined outcomes. This could become a global scandal that follows Paul for the rest of his life. But here's what's really terrifying for the Paul camp. Social media algorithms are starting to work against them in a way they've never experienced before. The same platforms that helped build Jake Paul's empire are now amplifying the scripting allegations faster than his team can control the narrative. TikTok videos breaking down suspicious fight moments are going viral with millions of views. YouTube boxing analysts are getting more engagement on their Paul criticism videos than Paul himself is getting on his own content. The internet that made him is now potentially destroying him. The ripple effects are hitting other influencer boxers too. KSI, Logan Paul, and other content creators who have entered boxing are all facing increased scrutiny because of Jake's controversies. Fans are going back and re-examining their fights with fresh eyes, looking for signs of scripting or predetermined outcomes. The entire influencer boxing movement that Jake Paul pioneered is now under a microscope because of these allegations. Other creators are reportedly furious that Paul's actions might be destroying opportunities for all of them. Here's something absolutely shocking that's just coming to light. Former boxing trainers who have worked with Paul's camp are starting to distance themselves in very public ways. These are people who helped build his boxing credibility, and now they're quietly removing their association with him from their professional materials. When the very people who trained you start backing away, that tells you everything about how serious these allegations have become. The boxing community is essentially excommunicating Jake Paul, and that's unprecedented for someone who was supposedly bringing new fans to the sport. And the streaming platforms are taking notice in ways that could be devastating. Netflix, which broadcast the Tyson fight to millions of subscribers, is reportedly reviewing their policies around live sports content following the scripting allegations. If major streaming platforms decide that Paul's fights represent too much reputational risk, where does he go from there? Traditional pay-per-view is dying, and streaming deals are the future of combat sports. Losing access to these platforms could essentially end his boxing career, regardless of whether the allegations are proven. The legal ramifications are getting more complex by the day. Sports law attorneys are suggesting that if the scripting allegations are proven, we could see class action lawsuits from fans who purchased pay-per-view events under the assumption they were watching legitimate competition. The potential financial liability could be in the hundreds of millions when you consider ticket sales, pay-per-view purchases, merchandise, and betting losses. Jake Paul's legal team is reportedly working around the clock to prepare for what could be an avalanche of litigation. But here's the most damaging part of all this. The allegations are fundamentally changing how people view Jake Paul's entire journey in boxing. Fans are going back and rewatching his early fights with new eyes, looking for signs that the whole thing was orchestrated from the beginning. His knockout of Ben Askren, his decision victory over Tyron Woodley, even his loss to Tommy Fury, everything is being re-examined through the lens of potential scripting. The narrative that Paul was a natural athlete who worked hard to become a legitimate boxer is crumbling in real time. The impact on young fans is particularly concerning to child psychologists and media experts. Jake Paul built his following largely among teenagers and young adults who looked up to him as someone who could transition from content creation to legitimate athletic success. If these scripting allegations prove true, it sends a message to young people that success can be manufactured and that hard work and authentic achievement don't matter. The potential damage to his young fanbase's trust and worldview is something that hasn't been fully considered yet. Even more shocking is how this is affecting the broader boxing industry's relationship with social media and influencer culture. Traditional boxing promoters who initially welcomed the money and attention that Paul brought to the sport are now questioning whether it was worth it. The potential long-term damage to boxing's credibility might outweigh any short-term financial benefits. We could be looking at a complete separation between traditional boxing and influencer boxing, with athletic commissions implementing new rules to prevent future controversies. The international boxing community is responding in ways that show just how global this scandal has become. British boxing authorities are reviewing whether to sanction any future Jake Paul fights on UK soil. European boxing federations are discussing new regulations specifically designed to address concerns about predetermined outcomes in celebrity boxing matches. This isn't just an American problem anymore. This is a worldwide crisis for the sport. And here's something that'll absolutely blow your mind. The scripting allegations are starting to affect Jake Paul's personal relationships in ways that are becoming public. Friends, business partners, and romantic interests are all reportedly questioning their association with him as the scandal grows. Social media posts from people in his inner circle have become noticeably less supportive, and several high-profile friendships appear to be cooling off. When your personal life starts reflecting the professional controversy, you know the damage is comprehensive. The streaming numbers tell a story that's particularly damaging for Paul's future prospects. While his fights still generate massive viewership, the engagement metrics are shifting in troubling ways. More people are watching to see if they can spot signs of scripting rather than to genuinely support Paul as a boxer. The comment sections on his fight videos are overwhelmingly focused on the controversy rather than his performance. He's becoming a spectacle for all the wrong reasons, and that's not sustainable for a long-term career. So here we are, watching what might be the complete collapse of Jake Paul's boxing legitimacy in real time. The scripting allegations have evolved from internet rumors to a comprehensive crisis that threatens every aspect of his career and business empire. Whether these allegations are ultimately proven true or false, the damage to his reputation and the sport of boxing might already be irreversible. This is bigger than just one controversial fighter. This is about the integrity of combat sports in the social media age.